20 years later, and the sequel to The Devil Wears Prada is out, and it's definitely fashionable. This is Popcorn Heist, where I love discussing movies and TV, reviewing things, and ranking things from worst to best. And I just got a chance to see The Devil Wears Prada 2, and I'm here to review it with spoilers. So spoilers for The Devil Wears Prada 2, and obviously The Devil Wears Prada 1, because we will be talking about that movie as well. And if you're into movies and TV, I really hope that you subscribe to the channel. It really helps the channel grow. But before I get into the review, at Popcorn Heist, I choose a quote per video. And the quote of today's video is, "May the bridges I burn light my way," which is said by Emily in The Devil Wears Prada 2. And it's kind of a funny scene where she's trying to like calm herself down after a phone call when she's doing some skincare and self-care. And at first it's just a funny scene, but then she does, again, spoilers, she does end up kind of becoming the villain of the movie and burning some bridges and using that as kind of her North Star of where she wants to go in the industry. So it does end up becoming relevant to the movie, and it is a funny line that I just enjoyed. Getting into my thoughts, I really liked how they brought Andy into the situation. I was a little bit worried coming into this movie that they were gonna kind of have her revert back to fashion after going through a whole progression in The Devil Wears Prada 1 to move towards journalism. So I was a little worried that they would regress her character in that way, but I liked the way that it was a natural progression from journalism back into the fashion world for her. And I love the reveal later on of how she kind of got that opportunity and people were kind of looking out for her from her days in The Devil Wears Prada 1. So I thought that was a really good way to bring her in rather than copping out and just kind of reverting her back to where she was. I will say though, I thought that Miranda not remembering Andy was a funny gag, but I don't love that they kind of regressed their relationship after so much development in The Devil Wears Prada 1. I feel like they really built that relationship and grew a respect for one another. And I do feel like that was kind of undone. Although it does fit into Miranda's character that she doesn't remember anyone, I do feel like they kind of reverted back to where they were and didn't show the progression of that relationship. And I think Miranda would remember her. I mean, they went through a lot together. That was an important time. So I don't know if I love that plot point. I do understand that they kind of wanted to recapture the magic of that relationship and Miranda kind of being a difficult boss and testing Andy once again. That definitely made for good nostalgia and a similar structure to the first one. But I think I would have preferred something a little bit more different in the structure of this movie. And I kind of wish Andy came in with a little bit more respect after all she did in The Devil Wears Prada 1. I will say, I thought they did a great job of updating the industry and the workplace with the times. Obviously, there's been a shift of magazines and journalism towards digital and a shift in workplace culture throughout the last 20 years. And I thought it was a good way to enter conflict into the situation and see how these characters adapted, especially Miranda, who clearly was kind of a toxic boss, and now she has to update with the times and hang up her own coat and say the right thing during meetings. And I thought that created some of the funniest moments in the movie, and it was just a fun way to progress with the 20 years that have passed since the first one. Revisiting the structure of this movie, I feel like the first act had a solid conflict with Miranda having to rebuild her reputation after her scandal, and the third act kind of had its own conflict with the succession crisis going on and the different people trying to buy out Runway and its parent company. And I feel like those were very different conflicts, and each worked in the part of the movie they were in. But because they're so different and we're kind of building from one to the other, I felt like the middle kind of waffled a little bit and wasn't as streamlined. And I felt like they could have connected some of those plot points a little bit better and honestly progressed through some of the plot points a little bit slower. I feel like some things just happen very, very quickly throughout the movie, whether it be Irv's death or kind of setting up the different buyout processes in the end. And I feel like they were progressed very quickly, so it was hard to really get invested in the conflict and understand each of them. So I definitely enjoyed the beginning of the movie with re-entering into this world and this industry and revisiting these characters. And I enjoyed how the conflict plays out in the end of the movie, but I just felt the middle of the movie wasn't the strongest. I loved the fashion throughout the movie. Obviously, that's really important in a movie that's so connected to the fashion industry. I feel like they killed it, especially with Miranda's character. She looked so good throughout the movie. And I loved the connections with the real world. I thought they had a lot of good cameos, especially Lady Gaga. I didn't come into the movie knowing that she was going to be in it, and I thought that that was such a good cameo, especially because it's so connected to the soundtrack of this movie and the music throughout this movie. And man, does the soundtrack hit. It was so good and so well used in this movie. I really wasn't expecting them to play so much of some of the songs that were created for this movie, and they really did play a lot of them and use them really well. And I feel like there are some scenes where it's flipping between a music performance or multiple conflicts with music playing, and the music really helps build up the intensity. And the final act of this movie is really good. I enjoyed the conflict that they built up. I enjoyed how they incorporated the music. I enjoyed the fashion show in Milan, and I love that they kind of built Emily up as sort of the villain of this movie and had her working against Runway and working against Miranda. I feel like that made sense for her character and made you kind of connected to who was working against Runway, because we have seen Emily for so long, and we can understand how someone kind of turns on someone after being in the pressure of that environment for so long. And Miranda eats her up in their conversation, which is very on brand for that character. I loved all of her monologues. I also love how smart Miranda is and how she kind of knows everything that's going on no matter what. One thing I didn't love about the final act, or I wish they approached differently in certain situations, is I feel like there's times where the characters are doing something to address the situation. So when Andy and Emily are planning to have Emily's boyfriend or fiance or whatever he is buy out Runway, they're kind of building up to that plan without telling the viewer what that plan is. And then they do the same thing when Miranda and Andy are now working against Emily, and it kind of breaks some of the intensity because you don't know what the characters are really working towards or what they're actually doing. You're kind of waiting for that reveal. And I definitely understand why they handled it that way. I just don't like that they did it twice within a few minutes of one another. And there's two key moments where I really felt that. And it's funny because they both revolve around Lady Gaga and Lady Gaga songs. But when Runway is playing and Miranda is at the fashion show and Andy is making phone calls, you don't really know who Andy is calling or what she's doing. And honestly, I'm still not really sure exactly what she was doing even after watching the movie, but I felt like that could have been a little bit more intense if we really understood the plan. And same thing when Lady Gaga is putting on her actual performance while the fashion show is happening and Miranda and Andy are driving somewhere, but you don't know where they're driving. I felt like in both cases, it would have been a little bit more impactful if you really understood what we were flipping between and what the plan was. Or maybe in one of the two cases, they could have explained a little bit more and it would have been more impactful. I just didn't love that there were two scenes where I felt that back to back. And I liked how it felt like Succession, but in the fashion world. I do wish they spent a little bit more time with the conflict at times, so you kind of understood exactly like what the business transaction that was happening was. And I felt like that would have made it a little bit more impactful, but I still liked how they kind of went that route. I think it made sense for the plot of the movie. I think it made sense for the characters, and I think it made for an enjoyable final act. And I liked where all the characters ended up in this movie. I actually feel like this movie kind of had more of like a kumbaya ending than the first movie. Miranda doesn't screw anyone over like she screwed Nigel over in the first one, and she actually gives Nigel his moment with his speech. And Andy ends up not leaving Runway and kind of, I feel like almost being equals is what they implied with the different offices of Nigel, Andy, and Miranda in the last scene. So I feel like they all end up happily together at Runway. I do wish they addressed if Andy wrote her book about Miranda. I feel like they left that plot point out unless I missed something. And I feel like that would have been a good way for her to still kind of pursue journalism like she did in the first movie. I like that ending for her. I kind of wish she didn't fully end up in the fashion world and was still able to pursue journalism. We could have used that plot point to explain where that character ended up, and I feel like they left that out, again, unless I missed something. So I think they should have put that in. I kind of hope she does write the book in universe, because I think she should pursue journalism without screwing over Miranda, and Miranda told her to write the book, so I think it would make sense for her to write it, and I wish that they addressed it. Overall, I would give this movie a 3 out of 5 popcorn buckets. It was definitely enjoyable, definitely played on the fashion and the nostalgia from the first movie, and definitely did a lot of things right. I do wish it kind of broke out of the mold of the first one a little bit more than it did. And I do feel like the structure kind of waffled in the middle between the conflicts of the first act and the final act. But it was an enjoyable movie. I loved the fashion, I loved the music, and I enjoyed spending time with these characters again. So definitely a solid sequel. As good as the first one, I don't think so, but definitely a worthy sequel that I enjoyed. I enjoyed revisiting these characters, revisiting this industry, revisiting this world, and the music and the fashion was great. If you enjoyed this review, I really hope that you like this video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps the channel grow, and you can join me for more movie and TV content moving forward.